It's one of the most haunting patterns in ancient architecture. From the scorching sands of Egypt to the rain-soaked jungles of Central America, from the frozen tundra of Siberia to the sacred plateaus of Indonesia, pyramids rise. Not just in a few places, not just from one culture, but across continents, separated by oceans, languages, and thousands of miles. And here's the kicker. Most of these pyramids were built during the same general window in history, from roughly 3000 BCE to 1000 CE, with a staggering concentration around 2500 BCE to 200 CE. This isn't just a coincidence, this is a pattern begging for an explanation. Let's start in Egypt, where the iconic Pyramid of Khufu, also known as the Great Pyramid of Giza, was built around 2560 BCE. At a height of 481 feet, it was the tallest man-made structure in the world for over 3,800 years. While the sheer scale is impressive, what's more mysterious is that its construction began not long after similar pyramid-like structures appeared elsewhere. In Mesopotamia, the Sumerians were building ziggurats, step temples, by around 3000 BCE, like the famous ziggurat of Ur. Travel east and you'll encounter the pyramidal stupas of early India and the tiered temples of Angkor and Borobudur in Southeast Asia. To the west, the Nubians of Sudan were building hundreds of smaller, steeper pyramids, some 80 at just one site, Meroe, by 800 BCE. Further afield in China, the mausoleum of the first Qin emperor, dating back to around 210 BCE, is a massive pyramidal burial complex, still mostly unexcavated, buried beneath a hill. In the Americas, the Olmecs, Zapotecs, Maya, and Aztecs built massive stepped pyramids beginning around 1000 BCE, like Teotihuacan, whose Pyramid of the Sun was completed by 200 CE and remains one of the largest in the world. These cultures did not share the same language. They had no common currency, no global trade network, no shared religion or political alliance. And yet, they all built pyramids, the same fundamental shape, rising from a broad base to a pointed summit. Always tall, always heavy, always monumental. Why? One explanation might be that pyramids are just structurally sound. A wide base and a tapering top naturally support heavy weight, but that doesn't explain why they're almost always used for religious or spiritual purposes. These structures weren't just warehouses or lookouts. They were temples, tombs, stairways to the sky. In nearly every case, the pyramid was connected to death, divinity, or the afterlife. So perhaps, at the heart of it all, is something older than architecture, something embedded in our species' psychology, something we all shared, even before we scattered across the globe. To understand why pyramids emerged independently, we have to go back, not just to ancient civilizations, but to the earliest humans. Homo sapiens emerged around 300,000 years ago, but symbolic thought, the ability to imagine gods, spirits, or the afterlife, appears between 100,000 and 40,000 years ago, as evidenced by cave paintings, burial rituals, and tools crafted with beauty in mind. Once we developed that symbolic mind, we began looking up, not just literally, but spiritually. We watched the sky, mapped the stars, and linked the heavens to the divine. The sky became a canvas for gods, myths, and fate. The pyramid, with its upward tapering point, is the perfect symbol of transcendence. Its base is earthly, grounded in the physical world. Its peak reaches for the divine. For thousands of years, people believed that the gods lived above, in the heavens, among the stars. Many cultures even envisioned the soul's journey after death as an ascent to the sky. And in almost every ancient pyramid culture, the ruler was seen as divine, or at least a bridge between this world and the next. So burying them inside massive, sky-reaching monuments was not just a show of power, it was theology in stone. The Egyptians, for instance, believed the pharaoh became one with the god Ra after death and traveled through the stars. The Mayan pyramid temples were aligned with celestial events, equinoxes, solstices, and lunar cycles. The Chinese pyramids in Shaanxi province align with cardinal directions and, in some theories, with constellations. Even Teotihuacan's pyramids are aligned with the movement of the Sun and Venus, key celestial bodies in Mesoamerican cosmology. According to archaeological astronomer Dr. Rama Astronomer, these alignments weren't accidents. They were coded into the very architecture. It wasn't just about what they built, it was how they built it. Across continents, ancient engineers designed pyramids not just for height, but for cosmic precision. The Great Pyramid of Giza, for example, is aligned almost perfectly with true north off by just 3/60ths of a degree. And despite weighing over 6 million tons, its stones were placed with a precision that modern architects still marvel at. Meanwhile, the Pyramid of the Sun in Teotihuacan rises to 206 feet and was constructed without metal tools or the wheel. The builders used obsidian blades, muscle power, and genius. Here's where it gets strange. Genetic studies show that ancient humans left Africa and spread across the globe by around 40,000 BCE. Long before writing, long before farming, but the ideas they carried about death, the sky, power, and divinity seem to have evolved in parallel. As if the impulse to build pyramids came not from contact, but from convergent evolution of the mind. Different people in different places with the same needs to connect heaven and earth, to immortalize the dead, to make sense of the stars. Of course, not everyone buys the idea that pyramids emerged independently by coincidence or psychology. Some researchers have proposed alternative explanations. One of the most debated is the lost civilization theory, popularized by authors like Graham Hancock. He argues that a highly advanced civilization, possibly destroyed by a cataclysm around 10800 BCE, passed down architectural knowledge to later cultures. The evidence? According to Hancock, sites like Göbekli Tepe, dated to 9600 BCE, and Gunung Padang in Indonesia, suggest advanced architecture long before agriculture. Some even point to similarities between Mesoamerican and Egyptian pyramids as signs of ancient contact. Mainstream archaeologists, however, reject this idea. There is no physical evidence of a global lost civilization. No shared written language, no common tools, no traded artifacts across oceans. Genetic evidence doesn't support transoceanic contact either, at least not before the modern era. In fact, most archaeologists argue that the pyramid shape simply makes sense. It's the most stable way to build high using stone, and its symbolism is nearly universal. But then again, what about the cosmic X factor? Let's talk about Orion. In Egypt, the three pyramids at Giza are believed by some to mirror the belt of Orion, part of a constellation linked to Osiris, the god of the dead. In Mesoamerican cultures, Orion was also prominent, tied to creation myths and rituals. Meanwhile, in Indonesia, megalithic sites like Gunung Padang are aligned with Orion as well. Coincidence? Perhaps. But it raises a compelling question. Why was Orion visible from every part of Earth so important to so many ancient peoples? This celestial obsession may tie back to something deeply primal. Around 70,000 BCE, the Toba supervolcano erupted in modern-day Indonesia, creating a global winter that nearly wiped out humanity. Some anthropologists speculate that humans who survived, especially those watching the skies for signs of danger, may have passed down stories about the heavens as both warning and wisdom. Over time, this evolved into sky-watching religions and eventually sky-reaching architecture. And here's another wrinkle. A recent paper in Nature 2023 used AI to analyze thousands of archaeological records and found that monumental construction, including pyramids, tended to spike right after climate shifts. Periods of drought, volcanic winter, or social upheaval often preceded major pyramid projects. Why? Possibly because in uncertain times, people look to the sky for answers. They build bigger monuments, pray harder, climb higher, hoping that gods will listen or that kings will be remembered. So maybe the pyramids weren't just architecture. They were emotional architecture. Civilizations carved their fears, beliefs, and ambitions into stone. They reached for the stars not because they could, but because they had to. So why were so many pyramids built around the same time? Because across time and distance, we are more alike than different. Whether standing under Egyptian sun, Mesoamerican moon, or Chinese mist, ancient humans looked up and saw the same stars, felt the same grief, dreamed the same dreams. And in the face of death, they chose to build, to reach, to remember. The pyramids remain silent, enormous, mysterious, not just as tombs for kings, but as monuments to a shared human impulse. One that defies time, geography, and even reason. The desire to touch the heavens.